Welcome! In the world of written language, few forms are as visually complex and, let's be honest, as beautiful as Japanese. So today, we're going to dive into the spirit behind those characters, into the art of black and white known as Shodo, or Japanese calligraphy. So let's start with this big question, because it's really at the heart of everything we're talking about today. When you look at a Japanese character, a kanji, are you just reading a word, or are you also seeing a piece of art? It's a really fascinating line to walk, so let's get right into it. Okay, so first things first, we have to understand that kanji aren't just letters like A, B, C. Nope, the alphabet that we use just represents sounds. But each kanji, it's a symbol that represents a whole concept, an entire idea, kind of like a whole story packed into a single picture. And the key word here is ideogram. Think about it like this. Our letter B doesn't mean anything by itself, right? It's just a sound, B. But a kanji, an ideogram, can mean mountain or river or love, all on its own. It's meaning, but made visual. This really lays it all out. On one side, you have phonograms. They're the building blocks of sound. On the other side, you've got ideograms, the building blocks of meaning. And that fundamental difference is exactly why looking at a kanji can feel like seeing a landscape or understanding a whole thought in a single glance. Every character has its own vibe, its own spirit. So how does this all come together to form a whole writing system? Well, for anyone who's ever tried to learn Japanese, this next part is usually where their head starts to spin. The big question is always the same. Yep. That's the number one question, and I get it. It seems super confusing at first, but trust me, there's a really beautiful logic to it. It's actually designed to make things clearer and way more expressive. Let's break it down. So here's how it works. First, you've got your kanji, those ideograms that came from China. They carry the core meaning, the nouns, the verbs, the main ideas. Then there's hiragana, this beautiful, curvy script that was developed in Japan. Think of it as the grammatical glue that connects all the kanji. And finally, you have katakana, which is sharp and angular. That's used for foreign words or for emphasis, kind of like using italics. And here's the thing, this isn't a bug, it's a feature. This hybrid system is incredibly sophisticated. By mixing these different scripts, a Japanese reader can instantly see what's a core idea, what's grammar, and what's a word from another language. It adds all these layers of visual texture and meaning that a single alphabet just can't do. Okay, so we've got the practical system down. Now let's talk about turning it into an art form. We're talking about Shodo, the way of the brush. This is where writing goes beyond just communication and becomes a full-on spiritual practice. The whole philosophy behind Shodo is completely different from a lot of Western art. Think about an oil painter, right? They can add layers, scrape off mistakes, paint over things. But in Shodo, it's a one-shot deal. The second that brush hits the paper, that's it. It's irreversible. There is no backspace key. So the focus isn't just on the final product. It's on the intense concentration you need in that one single moment. And all that high-stakes focus leads to this incredible mental state called mushin, or no mind. It's a concept you see in other Japanese do arts, like judo or the tea ceremony. It's about clearing your mind of everything, all the chatter, the fear, the distractions, and just letting your spirit move the brush with pure intuition. The beauty of the character really comes from the beauty of the process. I absolutely love this quote because it just nails it. The final character you see on the paper isn't just a word, it's a record, an X-ray, really, of the artist's state of mind in that exact second. Was their breathing steady? Was their posture strong? Were they calm or were they agitated? It's all right there, in the ink, for everyone to see. So, how does this ancient art, and let's face it, complex writing system, fit into our modern digital world? Well, it shows up in some really fascinating and sometimes pretty hilarious ways. Let's start with the classic example, the kanji tattoo. I mean, so many of us are drawn to the cool, mysterious look of the characters. So you walk into the tattoo parlor, you have this powerful idea in your head, something like strength, and you walk out with soup. Look, it happens. A lot. Because kanji can have so many different meanings and tiny little differences in how they're drawn, it's so easy to just pick one that looks cool without knowing what it really means. But you want to know the best part? It's how Japanese people often react. They'll almost never correct you. They'll just politely assume that you must really, really love soup. But it's not all about tattoos. Kanji plays this huge role in modern national culture. And a perfect example of this is the Kanji of the Year event. It's a massive deal. Every December, at the famous Kiyomizu Temple in Kyoto, a single character is chosen to represent the entire nation's mood for that year.
So for instance, one year when Japan had a ton of Olympic victories, the character they chose was kin, which means gold. And the head monk of the temple paints this character on a massive piece of paper in this absolutely stunning display of calligraphy.
What's just so incredible is how one single character can sum up the mood of an entire country. Kin, or gold, was chosen for an Olympic year, sure, but it also referenced new financial programs. After a year of hardship, the character for disaster was chosen. Each ideogram truly captures the collective feeling for a whole nation for an entire year.
Okay, so let's make this practical. How can you use some of these ideas in your next language exchange? I've got a few topics here that are guaranteed to get a great conversation started. You could kick things off with this one. In Japan, for example, a lot of companies still want you to submit a handwritten resume. Why? Because they believe your calligraphy actually reflects your character. How wild is that? How does that compare to where you're from? It's a perfect way to get into a discussion about tradition versus modern life. The tattoo question is always a fun one, right? Ask your language partner what single idea they would choose to represent themselves if they had to. It can lead to really amazing conversations about personal values, whether it's love, dream, or, hey, maybe even soup. And finally, invite them to share something about their own culture. Does their language have an art form like Shodo? Is there an art to beautiful writing? What kinds of tools do they use? This just opens the door to a fantastic cultural exchange. So I guess the main takeaway here is pretty simple. Whether you've been learning for years or you're just getting started, just remember that every single character you learn is so much more than a word. It's a piece of art, it's a piece of history, and it's a doorway into a whole new way of seeing the world. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it gives you a new appreciation for the art of black and white and maybe some great ideas for your next conversation. Keep exploring.